of Undergraduate Research Education Series. Today's presentation is on business research reports, information literacy, and the writing process. And our speakers are Annika Deutsch and Marina Narvaez. This is a virtual event and it's being recorded, so we ask everyone to mute yourself and turn off your camera to ensure the best experience. And if you have questions, please use the chat feature, or you can unmute yourself when invited by the speaker. This is the event evaluation QR code. We encourage everyone to fill that out after the event. But in particular, the Europe scholars must complete this evaluation in order to get credit for attending the event. And the mission of the University of Utah Office of Undergraduate Research is to facilitate and promote undergraduate, student, faculty, collaborative research, and creative works in all disciplines throughout the University of Utah campus. In recognition that excellence requires diversity, we pursue this mission through equitable programming that promotes diverse representation and social justice. And we acknowledge that this land, which is named for the Ute tribe, is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. The University of Utah recognizes and respects the enduring relationship that exists between many Indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. We respect the sovereign relationship between tribes, states, and the federal government, and we affirm the University of Utah's commitment to a partnership with Native nations and urban Indian communities through research, education, and community outreach activities. And today's speakers is Annika Deutsch. She's a science and engineering librarian, and Marina Narvaez. She is a business librarian.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for our Business and Research Reports Information Literacy program. And in this session, we identify the various types of business research reports and guide you through the process of finding, evaluating, organizing, utilizing, and communicating information. In addition to learning about business reports, this presentation includes in-depth demonstrations on how to use library resources that will allow you to develop strategic approach to research and the writing process. The objectives are for you to learn about the library spaces and services, finding and evaluating sources, performing company, industry, and market research, working on research assignments, and directions on writing and citing tools.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Annika Deutsch. I'm a science and engineering librarian. Before becoming a librarian, I worked in environmental consulting, where one of my responsibilities was to write and edit technical reports, as well as project management and business planning documentation. I'm keeping my camera off today because I'm sick, so I apologize, and hopefully you can all hear me all right. But I'm going to start off today showing you one of our research guides. So the Marriott Library offers a variety of services and spaces. And while you can find all of these through our website, we recently created this research guide that I'll show you in a moment that we hope will make it easier to find what you need. Research guides are publicly available guides offering tips on how to do research in a specific area or how-tos on a library-related topic like citation managers. I'm going to pull up this research guide. You'll have access to these slides with all of these links in them too. So we can take a look at some spaces and services that might be of interest. So you'll note on the homepage that the Marriott is one of 4 libraries on campus. We also have the Faust Law Library, the McKay Music Library, and the Eccles Health Sciences Library. This guide is specifically for the Marriott, though. You will also notice over here on the right-hand side, we do have a chat feature. If you have a really quick question that you want help with, you can reach us that way. And then there's some additional information about reaching us through phone, email, in person. I'll show you a little bit later how to find a librarian that specializes in your area. On the left-hand side of the guide, it's split into 3 main sections. This level by level section gives you kind of a tour of the library. We've got the floor plans over here on the right if you want to see that. And then it gives you each of the 5 levels of the library and what are the kind of main things that you can find on those floors. And for more information, you can click on the hyperlinks to go into the library website. So for example, on level 2, I can see we've got the Knowledge Commons. That's where you can rent laptops. We have computers, desktop computers that you can use in this space. You can scroll down to see all the different things on level 2. And one of these that Marina is going to talk about a little bit more later is the proto space. For example, if I'm like, oh, they've got podcasting booths, I want to know more information about that, I can click here and get all the information that's available about those podcast booths. So that's what we have here. If I see that service that I'm interested in, I can click in to learn a little bit more. If you aren't looking for a general overview of the layout but are interested in a study space or a space that offers some technology, you can click on this Library Spaces tab, and this will help you find those different types of spaces. That includes classrooms and outdoor spaces. This Catherine's Courtyard that you can access from level 1 or level 2 is a really popular one for students, especially in the warmer months. And we also have information about bathrooms if you're interested in where our different types of bathrooms are. But what I really wanted to focus on today is the library services. As you can see on this main tab, we offer a wide variety of services that are available for both faculty and undergrad and grad students. We really are here as librarians and staff of the library for everyone on campus, and even for community members too. And if you're looking for a librarian who specializes in your area, there's a link here that will take you to the library website. I can search by a department. So if I'm interested in math, here I can see I am the math subject librarian. Or you can search by name if you want to see what areas Marina focuses on. You can find them here. So that's a really handy tool to have. If on this research assistance tab right here, we link you to some information to kind of introduce you to library research. And one area that you may be familiar with, but I'll show you quickly, is the U search bar. We've got a guide here that gives you some more information. But if you go to the main library website, lib.utah.edu, you'll see this big white search bar here at the top. This is kind of a general search bar that will search the library website and the library catalog. So I'm going to search for workplace communication just kind of as a starting place here. And I'm searching everything. So you can see all the different types of results. It's giving me information from the library website, the catalog, articles through our databases that we have. There are even some journal titles that might have these terms in them. Just for the sake of looking in our catalog, I'm going to click on the book results over here, just to show you what the catalog itself looks like. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see there are filters, or they're sometimes referred to as limiters. So I've got 4,700 results right here, and that's too many books on workplace communication for what I'm interested in. So I can narrow it down. If I want, an online version that has full text, I can select that. If I want to go into the library and get a physical copy, I can click on this available in the library and see what all we have there. So these limiters or filters are really helpful in narrowing your research, and Marina is going to show you kind of how that looks in the article databases as well. Yeah, so that's what the catalog looks like. I'm not going to go into the specific records. One thing I did want to note, if you're coming from off campus, on the library page, you'll see this login button up here on the right-hand side. I want to click on off-campus access to make sure that it recognizes me as a member of the university. Our databases, the journal articles that you receive through the library are basically subscriptions that we pay for based on how many current faculty and staff we have and enrolled students. And so if you're not on campus, we kind of have to trick the databases into thinking that you are on campus and that you are a member of our community and should get to have that access. And one of you did have a question about how long you have access to library services after you graduate. There might be a lag, but you should kind of assume that like the day after you graduate, you won't have access to those anymore, because I would hate for you to plan to do some research, the next week and lose it. Because we do pay a lot of money for those services. Just as a quick note while I'm on this screen, underneath that use search bar, you'll see a databases tab, which Marina will show you in a little bit more detail next. If you're looking for a specific journal title, you can search that here. Kind of slow sometimes. And then also research guides. This is how you can search for research guides like this spaces and services guide that I'm showing you now. So one other thing that the U-Search bar on that main page is good for kind of starting out a search if you're new to a topic, or if you are looking for a book and then you're searching in our catalog. It can also be really good for searching for a known item. And so I'm going to click over here to this getting access to a source, which again shows you can either search the U-Search by title, or you can search by that journal title that I showed you a moment ago. If you ever are looking for a source that we don't have access to, we do have interlibrary loan. You need to create an account, but then you can request anything and they'll let you know if they can get access to it. They're pretty quick. If you're looking for electronic access to an article, it takes 24 to 48 hours often. And books can take a little bit longer if they're, sending it from across the country. But that's how you can get access to anything that we don't have. You can also suggest a purchase. This is open to anyone on campus. If the person reviewing that request thinks that it's a good request, then we'll purchase it and we'll let you know that it's available. I'm going to open back up that presentation just to show you. Marina is going to kind of show you how to search in one of the library databases, but I did want to quickly mention that library databases don't use natural language like Google and Google Scholar. Those use algorithms. Library databases use controlled language, which makes it more challenging to find the material you want, but it means that your searches can be recreated either by you or someone later on checking your work, and that's really important in research to be reproducible. And so it's important to distill your research question or topic into keywords or key phrases, and consider related or synonymous words or phrases too. So in this example here, we kind of use these Venn diagrams to look at Boolean operators, which may be a familiar term to you, but in libraries, we use them in our library databases. So if you have two distinct concepts, like in this example on the top here, we have we're looking at the diet of children. And so I don't want to just search for diet because I'm going to get information about adult diets too. And I don't want to search for just children. I'm going to get information about education, and I don't care about that. I just want the intersection of diet and children. And so I would connect these two terms, and Marina's going to show you kind of what this looks like. Diet and children. And then I'll just get results that relate to both of those. The or Boolean operator is used to connect synonyms or related keywords. So if I'm interested specifically in teenage diets, then I can look for teenagers or adolescents, and it will give me everything that relates to those. Truncation is also an option if you have a word or words that are spelled in a similar way. So I could do teen asterisk, and that will give me the equivalent of teen or teens or teenager or teenagers. And then if I connect that string with an and diet, then I'm going to get really everything that I need there. And one final point I wanted to make on search basics. I know that's a really quick overview, but I think it makes more sense when you actually see it live in a database like Marina is going to show you. It's important not to introduce bias into your search terms. So don't search for terms like success or failure, for example, because then you'll only get part of the picture that might reinforce your hypothesis. So leave it broad so you can see all the research that's out there, and you may end up being surprised, which is a really good thing when you're doing research. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about evaluating sources. So Marina's going to show you kind of how to read an article so that you're not spending time reading 130-page articles. Once you have identified that an article is useful for your research, you want to look beyond that article to also determine its credibility. And so one of the methods that we use at the library is the SIFT method. That stands for stop, investigate the source, find better coverage, and then trace claims, quotes, and media to the original context. And so what this comes down to is you don't want to trust a source that you found to be able to synthesize every other source that they're citing. They may have some bias, whether they know it or not, that they're introducing by the way that they are using a quote or paraphrasing a source. And so if you find a newspaper article that seems like a really helpful one on your topic, and they're quoting another source, you actually want to go and find that source that they're citing and read that source. And you may actually find that that source that you've traced back to is a better source, or you may find that they didn't quite capture what the original source was trying to say. And so that might make you second guess a little bit the quality of your original source. So tracing those claims is a really important part of research. In addition to kind of looking at who the authors of your source are, if it's peer reviewed, and what the type of source is, and whether or not that's something that makes sense for you to be using for your particular topic. And so I'll hand it over to Marina.
Thank you. I am going to go over the business writing toolkit with you all and how to apply it to more broader audience, because I know that a majority of the students here are not business students. But let me go ahead and show you how to get to this toolkit. I know that Annika showed you how to get to the library's main page, which is lib.utah.edu. And once you're here, as Annika was instructing, there is a research guides tab right here. And once you follow it, you can go and search through all the guides. So what these guides are, they cover all the subject areas that are taught in the school, in the University of Utah. You can look by group, by subject, by type, but I like to just go by owner. And you can look for, there's Annika's name, and I'm a little further down to look at all of my guides. Here they are. And like I said, I'm going to go over the business writing toolkit with you. So on this page, the welcome page, I have contact information to me and my colleague, and we're both our business librarians. So if you want to follow up with any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But I'm going to dive right into this career building tab and review that there is campus support on career building, and you can get started right away. Doesn't have to be when you graduate. You can work on resumes, internships, building your skills, and I have some links here and ready to help you get involved with them. Below that, if you want to start looking at your career field and looking at the different positions there, you can look at the duties and skills and start building those and start talking to our campus service career services department about how to build those skills to align you ready for work. Below that, I have some LinkedIn information and instructions. And then I have some library resources, and they do cover resumes, cover letters, and career building options. And then at the bottom, some tips, websites, free websites that you can always access to help you with career building, resumes, and cover letters. The next tab is workplace communications. And once you're in your position, you're going to need to communicate with your coworkers. So we have some materials on how to build those soft skills and some websites to build those soft skills and knowing how to properly format letters and emails and memos and the tone you should use. And then next tab is the business presentations. And as Annika pointed out, we have this creativity and innovation services department on the second floor. So when you're practicing for your presentation, you can go in there and record yourself audio or video of your speech and check it out before you have to deliver it. Once you follow this tab that I have created here, you'll be taken to all of the contact information to the specialists in that area, so you can get in touch with them and get some help with everything that you need. Below that, there's some books on presentations. There's going to be like I like this book right here, telling storytelling with data. Now, anybody who is in majoring that has to deal with raw data or statistics, I suggest checking out this book right here. Once you access it, I suggest it because it's going to be more impactful telling a story with data instead of just, you know, drawing out a whole bunch of different numbers. Once you access the link, you're going to go to the use search catalog record of the item, and below that, um, we have the view online section, and you can just follow that link. And depending on the data, on the who the provider is, you may have to follow another link, but it'll eventually take you to the item itself. And when you're using books for to help you with your work, you don't have to read the whole book. Just go through the chapters. You always have access to the table of contents. Read over the chapters, figure out which one will help you with your work. And I like using books, and I like showing students books and how to use them because most they're really helpful because they give you a narrative instead of and it kind of tells you a story of how to use, for example, telling storytelling with data versus an article where it's very condensed with information. All right, so I'm going to go back to the guide, and below the books, we have a film on how to make powerful presentations, and then some websites that you can use to create visuals for your presentation. The next tab is business plans. I know there are several students here that are in the STEM programs, and if you work with, for example, or you create an item that you want to sell, or with the bench to bedside, you create, you have a project to, and you end up deciding to market it, you're going to need a business plan in order to get that business running. So over here, we have some free resources on business plan templates and books to help you develop those sections of the business plan. And then below that, there is a planning your pitch tutorial and some books on how to pitch your idea to a potential investor. Now, when writing these business plans, you're going to need to do some research on on companies that are already established to help you kind of align with what's going on in the market. And so right below that, we have some databases on company research. And if you decide to go this route, please reach out to me or my colleague. And then we have the marketing plans tab. So again, if you need help with a marketing plan because you're ready to launch your business, you're going to need a plan on how to get customers interested in what you're wanting to sell. And so we have some marketing plan books, some websites on how to build those marketing plans and how to expedite them. And then below that, consumer analysis and market analysis. All right, the next tab, which is where I'm going to spend most of my time, is this research assignments tab. So on this plan, I identify there are two different types of research assignments, and I'm pretty sure the majority of you are going to run into these two different types. The first one I'm going to discuss is when you're writing on a topic. So when you write on a topic, when you get your topic, either your professor gives you the topic or you select it, but essentially there are three sections to your paper. We have introduction, literature review, and conclusion. In the introduction, you're going to introduce your topic. You're going to say what you understand about the topic, what brought you to the topic, and the direction that you want to take your research topic. Because the idea is to create a path of information that defines it. Now, the topic itself, you have to understand that they're phenomenons. So there's a worldview of perspectives. So when you have this, when you decide on it, you have to look at it and decide what perspective you're going to take. Focus on that perspective and describe it throughout your paper and to define it at the end. And that's your objectives. So I'm going to dive into the introduction and gathering material. So you're going to need to build your background knowledge. You're going to have to narrow your perspective, and you're going to need to end up developing your research question. Below that, we have some resources to start gathering articles to help support your introduction. I'm going to start with Nexus Uni. I like Nexus Uni because of the option that it has in regards to trade and industry trade press. They're industry journals. Industry journals are not peer reviewed, but they're considered scholarly because they're written by people in the workforce for people in the workforce. So it's kind of like a peer-to-peer in its own way. So regardless of the industry, it could be anything from science to math to psychology and so forth. So in here, when you access this database, you have a dates of publication available. Usually it comes pre-filled. I'm okay with 2 years because you have to think about it. These articles are probably written, or these reports rather, are written, weekly or bi-weekly. So that you're going to be overwhelmed if you go any further than a year or two. I'm going to go ahead and start with the search phrase. My example search topic is going to be using financial incentives in the workplace. So when you look at it, like Annika was explaining, you're going to need to pick out some subject terms. So using financial incentives in the workplace. I have financial incentives, workplace, employees. So let's go ahead and start with financial incentives. And I can use one of those Boolean operators. I can use and I can say employees and hit enter. Now, my results list yielded first over 8,000 results. I have my limiters or my narrow by. We have previous 2 years, but I'm going to add another one, or actually I already added two. So let me skip down to or actually source type to find those industry trade press journals. So I hit more, hit industry trade press. Looks like there's, yeah, a little over 300. Now, that's a very good number to start to kind of work with and play with. So as I'm looking at these results, I see that there's a title hyperlinked. There's a little bit about the source type, and then there's some hyperlinks into parts of the article. Now, as you go through, you can start deciding which one fits your needs. So let's say I'm going to look at this one just as an example. So once you access a resource or a report in this database, we have source type information. So as Annika was explaining, you're going to need to do a little sift with it. When you follow the link, it just goes in and it describes the source to you. If you want to, Google Syndicate Media Incorporated, then do it to make sure that you can trace any sort of contact information. You can ask questions about the material or so forth, which is a good way to run something through evaluation. Over here, we have send to Google Drive. So you can put this into a Google Drive, and if you have teammates that you need to share this article with, it'll be sitting there for them. And then there's this really neat tool, export citation. I'm going to go into doing citation in a reference list a little bit more later. But right now, if you want, you can start copying and pasting into a working reference list. I say working because these citations, they're not written by a person and checked. They're generated by an algorithm, but you have a few different options on your style. And another really neat feature of this database is that each of your search terms are going to be highlighted. So there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to go back to my guide here and the literature review. So your literature review is when you're going to start gathering information or gathering more material. And this is going to be the second section of your paper, and you're going to need to gather material that relates to your topic. So, you already have search terms. You have financial incentives and employees. And so I'm going to go down and I want to introduce you to Business Source Premier first, because there's a really neat feature with this database. And this is true for Academic Source Premier, because that is going to be available probably on most of your guides, and I'll show you how to get to that in just a minute. So we have advanced search option as soon as you access it. And so we have Business Source Premier, but it is brought to you by EBSCO. So once you see EBSCO, you'll know that this is going to help you with gathering more search terms. So first I'm going to start with financial incentives. And I know you see there's some options already generated, but it's not being intuitive. Just like Annika was saying, this is not like Google. Those phrases and words, they were just what was entered before, and sometimes they're not spelled correctly. So just be careful if you use them. But below, for your literature review, you're going to need to have probably more peer-reviewed articles versus the trade journals. So you can click that to start limiting it right away, and you hit search. Now, once you get to those results list, you can see there's over 4,000, which is a bit much to start working with. So you're going to want to start limiting it. Now, in each result, there's going to be the hyperlink title hyperlinked, a little bit about the journal, just like Nexus Uni. But right here, there is a subjects line. Now, this subjects line is really cool because it's giving you the words that is considered controlled language. So financial incentives is natural language. But as you can see, this is already highlighted for you or bolded for you, and it wants indicating that this is the preferred phrasing versus financial incentives. And if you think about it, it makes sense. For this example, it shows that financial is monetary is preferred over financial. And if you think about it, financial can be anything like financial services, banking. Monetary means actual like funds. So all I have to do is copy that, paste it in there, hit search, and your results list dropped. And this is what you want to make sure you're doing when you're doing these searches in this databases. You want to kind of start broad, narrow it down into perspective that you're taking, go back to broad and back and forth as you gather material. Because remember, the idea is to create a path of information that helps you define your topic. So first thing was identifying the correct search term or phrase. I already have over here where it says limit to, I already said it's peer reviewed. But with these peer reviewed option articles, you want to narrow it between 5 to 7 years because these articles, it probably took about 2 years at least to get published. So once it's published, it's already a little dated. So in order to keep it valid or current, you can narrow it down to 5 to 7 years. And we dropped it down another 1,000 from where it was. And now you're ready to start entering new search terms. So we have the main idea of our topic. The next was, employees. I'm going to use that that operation that Annika taught us. So it's employees. So it kind of broadens it a little. And we have 132, which are really manageable number to go through and figure out how I'm going to start discussing monetary incentives with employees. Now you are going to have to take a position. So maybe at this point you want to start looking at these phrases that they give in the subjects line and start thinking, okay, well, monetary incentives, job involvement. Let's say that your position for your perspective was that monetary incentives don't work with employees. So your question could be, why don't monetary incentives work with employees? So a main idea could be that it doesn't really make many people involved. It doesn't really help with that. So you put that in there, in the search box, and we down to 3. That's kind of a small number. So out of these 3 words, I can probably get rid of this one and broaden it up a little bit because employees are in their job. And I got 4, so kind of did broaden it a little bit. But now you're ready to look at one of these articles and start deciding, is this article right for me? So once you get to this point, you can follow the link to the article, or you can open up HTML or PDF, but there's also this view it option. The view it option will more than likely take you to, I think it actually does. It does take you to the catalog record, like I showed you in the book, and give you the option to view it online. If it's not available, then you will be directed to request it through interlibrary loan. As Annika pointed out to you, there's a page where you can read about that. But if you want to just go straight to reading an article, you can hit the PDF. I personally like PDFs. So once you open it up, you have over here to the right, we have this little gold paper. And here's the citation for this. But remember, you're going to need to make sure it's written correctly before you turn it into your instructor. Now, looking at these articles. Okay, so this article is 24 pages long. And it is written by somebody who is very well educated and experienced in their topic. And they wrote it for other people to review it because it's peer reviewed, to accept it and say that it was a good study. So at first glance, these articles can be pretty intimidating. But if you tear them apart, decide if it's a good article for you, it gets a little easier to digest. So when you take it apart, I suggest first looking at the abstract. The abstract is like the elevator speech of the article, and it goes in and it tells you, just like what you do when you write your paper, what this article is about, a little bit about what they learned, or why it took to what why they went to that topic, what drew them to that topic. Maybe a little bit about what they learned during their study, and a little bit about what happened at the end and what they've learned. So at first glance, you can read over that pretty easy. They're usually only about 450 words. Then we have the introduction, and the introduction is just like what you do for your introduction, what you did, what brought you to this topic, some documentation supporting what you know. And this is a great way to start looking at how to do in-text citation. So you can see how they're writing it and how they citate and how they do their citation. And if you notice, it's very unlikely they're going to have a direct quote. And because direct quotes they're really not helpful. I've had a professor tell the whole class that they don't even read quotes. So make sure you do in-text citation, and paraphrasing is definitely a good thing to do. After you do the introduction, sometimes they create a literature review. This one apparently didn't. They went straight into their study. Now, from this point on, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get through. As you may notice, it's a scientific method. So they're going to go through and give you a lot of figures and formulas, and a chart, and it can a research method. It can get a little overwhelming, and at first glance, I would suggest skipping over it, um, just so that you can get through it and make a decision if this article is good for your paper. Um, if you decide it's the right one, you might want to go through it and pick details out to help make your paper a little stronger. But at first glance, yeah, let's go ahead and move past this part. It's pretty dense. But definitely go through and read the discussion and conclusion. The discussion and conclusion, sometimes they separate them out. This author put them together, but it was really helpful because that's the author just telling you directly what they learned, um, what you can do with the study if you want to, when you're ready to do your own writing for publication in your graduate course, you can take this information and do what they suggest you can do with this study. So that was Business Source Premier. The next resource I'm going to show you is JSTOR. And I like showing people this one because there's this advanced search option. And once you're here, you can enter your search terms. You can limit to data publication, JSTOR articles. If you just pick article, they're going to be peer reviewed. But you can also limit by discipline or journal. So for example, if you go into Asian studies, there's a nice long list of 142 titles. You can select those titles, or you can just click the check and look through all of them. And again, that's JSTOR. There's other databases here, and they're all going to have different articles in them for you. And but that is writing on a topic. And then again, of course, your conclusion, you're going to want to make sure you define your topic. Make sure you're staying on task with that. And once you gathered all these articles and you're going to start looking at them and you're start understanding how you're going to want to introduce them. You're going to, I mean, I used to print them out, highlight, write notes to myself, and put introduction, main idea, detail on my printout to help me kind of organize my paper. Now, the second research report you're going to be looking at is a problem-based report. Problem-based reports are going to come for anyone in like a STEM course, as well as a business course. So when you have a problem-based assignment, when you're looking at how to lay out your information, you can lay them out like this, but sorry, let me go ahead and get back to this. We have, you're going to be asked to do tasks, objectives, and goals. In these tasks, objectives, and goals, you're going to need to lay it out in an introduction. You're going to have to explain what the issues are, and you're going to need to come up with a conclusion, like how you're going to solve this problem. So in the introduction, you're going to need to introduce all perspectives. So on the topic, you have your one perspective that you need to define, but in a problem base, you have to look at all the issues involved. So you can introduce all the perspectives. So my example problem is we have two companies working in two different countries, working on one project together, and their language barrier, there's no language barrier, but their meetings are a waste of time. They're not accomplishing anything. So in your introduction, you would say you have two different groups of people living in two different cultures. You don't have to get specific about the countries or anything like that, but you do have to identify that that's something that those are two different perspectives. Another layer to that is that they have different workflow methods. So the real issues here could be that they they have cultural boundaries and their management styles and workflow methods are not aligning. So you need to you need to build in your conclusion how they're going to approach a project, how to implement different goals, and how to build a team. So that can be a way to approach this kind of these kind of reports. When you're gathering the articles, you can go to any of these databases to gather material, like I showed you. And sometimes these reports require you to gather company, industry, or market research. And so I have some databases for you to look through that. And the last thing I'm going to show you is our academic writing and citing tab. Now, just like Annika and I were explaining to you, you do need to evaluate your source, make sure it's reputable. And there's a video for you. And then there's University Writing Center and how to get involved with them. They're located on the second floor in the Marriott Library. And then there's the Office of Undergraduate Research, the Ed Series, like you're attending here. There are two that are that I highlight here for you. And then there's citation managers. Now, these citation managers, we have with this guide here to show you how to use them and what your options are. And if you have problems with them, we have our colleague Ishmael. He'll be able to help you with that. But just like I was explaining to you that these articles, they have those citation options, and you can just copy and paste into a Word document. Another option is to put them in one of these citation managers. And the reason for that is that you have a store method. They store all of those citation, those reference lists for you, and you can save them in folders and titles. But it's important for you to do that because if from semester to semester, you'll remember an article that you need and for another study that you're doing and you can't remember it. So instead of wasting time looking for it or not ever finding it, they'll be sitting here waiting for you in the store option. And then below, again, when you're ready to start writing for publication in your graduate studies, there's some books to help you with that. And one that is used often by faculty members is this handbook. All right, so if you forgot everything that I said or want to go back and review different parts, there's this LibWizard tutorial. It's not very long. It's maybe I think it's 7 slides. There's some videos on there for you and to get reacquainted with it again. If you have any questions for Annika or I, we have our contact information available here for you. And I think we're open to questions now.
One of the registrants asked, what is the most important step when writing a professional paper?
Giving yourself time. You're never ahead. Making sure you give yourself time to do your research, talking it out. It's really helpful because I see it all the time. Students come in here and they have all these ideas, and I know they really believe they know what their direction and what they're going to do with whatever it is that they need to write about, and it never really comes out. I, I, and it's not a flaw. It's just normal. Um, so talking out your research and talking about what your direction is with with what you want to present is really important. Giving yourself time to mentally digest that and formulate words for what you want to say. It takes time.
Yeah, and I will add to that, one of the best ways to learn how to write is to read in the genre that you're trying to write in. So if you're trying to write a, a journal article to get published, then reading those other journal articles and taking note of what they do well and what they don't do well will also really help you determine how to write your own article. And similarly, if it's a problem-based report or a different type of writing, just reading a lot within that genre will help you.
Did you go over some resources on how to simplify complex findings using visualization?
As in data?
It was just a question. Complex findings. I would think data.
Yeah, if it's raw data or a lot of statistics, evaluating it first and foremost. When you evaluate it, there's going to be discussion on it. But we also have a data services department in the library. It's in the prototype area. Is that correct, Annika?
I think they're part of that group, but they're actually located in the faculty center on level 1.
Right. But you can reach out to them. You can ask anybody in the library, or either Annika or I, on how to get in contact with them. But we have some specialists on how to do raw data research and how to create visuals of it so that you can do your storytelling with data, for example.
Yeah, and they offer periodic workshops on things like that. Like Tableau is one that I've attended in the past, which is a very simple interface for doing complicated things. So you don't have to be a programmer to be able to visualize your data, and they're really good at helping you figure out the best way to do it based on your skills.
Maybe you covered this, but a question was, what aspects of a research report in the writing process might an industry researcher do differently than someone in academia?
Well, they're more proprietary first. It's their specialty. So if they're sharing it, it's going to be pretty valuable. And it's going to be written for people that are, like Annika said, to read material that's in your industry. So you're going to probably want to start reading like those industry trade press articles to understand them and to understand what's going on in that area. And that's for any area, regardless of business.
Yeah, and I'll also add that, you all are in a great position of having access to our library resources, our databases, but people in industry generally do not have that access. And so they're probably going to be using information from other people, other trade journals, or people that they work with. Kind of like personal communication information gets cited a lot in industry. Books and textbooks are generally the sources that they're citing as well. And depending on what industry it is, it may not even necessarily be geared towards peers reading it. It might be more for the public too, which I think is like 8th grade reading level. So it really, yeah, as Marina said, it's important to read other sources in that style so you can see kind of what they're doing differently. It varies.
And if somebody is on a short time schedule, what is the critical information to include in a report for presentation? What do you think?
Unbiased material. It's difficult to find because there's always going to be a perspective. But I mean, I think both Annika and I were explaining to evaluate sources. A big part of that is to make sure that you don't include, you're just presenting information.
Yeah, and I would also say, again, depending on what industry you're in or department you're in, you might be able to find an article that is in itself a literature review, and those can be really great tools for you so that you don't have to recreate the wheel and find all of those sources. You might want to read them, go back to that kind of tracing claims, but that if you find a relatively recent literature review article, you can use that as a starting place if you're short on time.
Thank you, everybody. I wanted to remind you about the event evaluation. Here's the QR code, and I'm dropping the link in the chat right now. A reminder that the Europe scholars must complete this evaluation to get credit for attending today's event. And just a reminder, the Office of Undergraduate Research, we're located in the SIL Center. Our website is our.utah.edu, and you can email us at our@utah.edu. And thank you very much, Marina and Annika. This has been a very informative presentation.